An imperial guard born as a slave, died to protect a mad emperor who made a deal with the devil. Will he be remembered as a knight who remained loyal until the very last moment of his life, or a foolish loser who failed to see the changing times? But in the end, neither of those words had anything to do with me. A faint smile hung on Cain Astor's face. Isn't it cleaner to just disappear from everyone's memory? The rebel leader, Harrow Reston, roared, "You idiot! Why did you turn your blade at the last moment?" The cold tip of a spear pierced his body. He looked at the long spear penetrating his body and said, as an orphan, "I've lived for 29 years, always making my own choices. Don't pick a fight for no reason." "Young master of the ducal house," Harrow's face twisted in anger. "You could have escaped. Why make this choice? Cain, open your eyes." He frantically shook the body. "Get up, you bastard!" Harrow held Cain's gradually cooling corpse, his futile cries echoing in the firelight. Cain's eyes had lost their light, leaving only an empty gaze. Harrow's voice was cut off by a sob. His vision sank into darkness. The sounds vanished. Everything returned to nothingness. Bare feet stepped onto a cold water surface. Ripples spread silently. "Where is this place?" He looked up. Before him was a twisted, swirling, starry sky, deep and unfamiliar. Is this death? Is this freedom? It's nothing special. His body felt no temperature. Only pure existence remained. A thought surfaced. That guy Harrow is an ugly crier. Well, he'll figure things out. Time to taste this so-called freedom. A light tore through the void. Something grabbed him. An irresistible force pulled his existence backward. His pupils contracted in sharp pain. His consciousness was forcibly torn apart. His vision melted into a blur of colors. Something was squeezing his body. A strange voice spoke. "You were born very healthy, Karen." A blond man smiled and said, "Father, would you like to hold him?" A bearded man said, "He didn't even cry. What a strong child." Cain thought, what the hell is going on? The bearded man picked him up. His body was enveloped in an unfamiliar warmth. "Grow up strong, my youngest grandson," Cain thought. That face is old, covered in wrinkles, but it's unmistakably Harrow. The baby's body began to tremble. An uncontrollable cry tore from his throat. "Wah!" Harrow froze. "Ah, did I make him cry?" His vision was flooded with tears. He could only let out a shrill cry. "What the hell is this? I've become Harrow's grandson." So the knight who died with the mad emperor 40 years ago, Cain Astor. He failed to stop the monarch from going down the wrong path, yet is remembered by posterity as a symbol of unwavering loyalty, staying with his lord until the very end. The man's voice echoed in the room. "This is the latest view from the Modern History Society." He closed the book and turned to the boy by the window, asking, "Young master, what are your thoughts?" Karen Reston, age 10, Harrow Reston's third son, and the only child of Count Pell. Without looking up, Karen asked, "Professor, what is your own opinion?" The man was taken aback. He pushed up his glasses and said, I believe the great Duke wishes to restore his friend's honor. After all, the friendship between Duke Harrow and Lord Cain is a well-known story." Karen's voice was flat. "Do you really think so?" The man was at a loss for words. "I mean..." Karen looked up, his eyes cold, and said, "I believe my grandfather resents his dead friend. That's why he's deliberately gilding his friend's name." The professor thought, what is this little brat saying? A bead of sweat trickled down the professor's temple. "What do you mean by that?" Karen explained. "Because my grandfather couldn't accept that Cain chose death over revolution. He ignored Cain's wishes, the wishes of a man who didn't want to be a hero, but just wanted to die quietly." The professor thought what he desired was a peaceful death. A chill ran down the professor's spine. Of course there are records of them arguing, though it's just a rumor. If Cain Astor chose death, instead of fighting alongside his friend or joining the revolution, this argument makes perfect sense. Karen asked, "Don't you think so?" The professor thought, a 10-year-old child can make such an inference. If I agree with this outrageous view, the ducal knights will probably execute me for blasphemy. Ah, well, I had never considered that perspective. A small scoff escaped Karen's lips. The professor froze. Karen grinned, a smile that didn't belong on a child's face. "Just kidding," he said. "Why do you look so pale?" The professor remained silent, cold sweat soaking his collar. "Right now, my name is Karen Reston. As you can see, I am the youngest grandson of the Reston ducal house. For now, it took me a while to figure things out. In the end, I was reborn as the grandson of Harrow Reston. That hopeless bastard dared to turn me into a hero. He should have known, even if I didn't say it." A man prayed at a table, his skin pale. "He is Harrow's youngest son. He is my father." Karen coughed lightly. His father turned and said, "Karen, is your class over?" Karen replied, "Father, are you praying again? Are you still worried about my awakening ceremony?" His father's gaze shifted away. "I'm sorry, son," Karen asked. "For what?" His father said, "You know, unlike your two uncles, I never awakened any mana, so I worry that I might have passed the same burden to you." Karen placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "Father." His father looked up. Karen smiled and said, "No matter what anyone says, you are the greatest father to me." A blush crept up his cheeks. His voice trembled slightly as he said, Karen. He pulled Karen into a tight hug. You're the best son, too, my precious son. He squished Karen's cheeks. Karen's expression froze. His father let go and said, let's go. Time for dinner. What do you want to eat? Karen said, meat, of course. Later that night, Karen lay in bed, holding a glowing stone in his hand. The awakening ceremony, huh? His mind drifted to the past. Awakening ceremony. What's that? Haro said, it's a family ritual. A tradition of our vassalage. A ceremony to unlock one's innate mana. Kane scoffed and said, so mana is innate. Like being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Sorry, but I have no interest in that. Haro looked at the people in the training ground and said, not everyone can awaken mana. And even if they do, it doesn't mean they qualify to be the family head. They say there's also a huge secret, passed down only to the family head. Kane asked, puzzled, a secret? Like the location of a great treasure, or a grimoire that can grant wishes. Haro said, if it were something like that, you might be interested. Kane replied, maybe a little. Like being able to live in a remote place, far from everyone, living quietly. Haro let out a scoff. Kane clenched his fist and said, are you laughing at your friend's humble dream? My head is still on the line for you. Haro said, all right. Kane looked away. Haro said, the day I become the head of the family, I'll specially tell you that secret. Back to the present, the ceremony to awaken mana, the awakening ceremony. Karen sat on the edge of the bed, bathed in moonlight. A blue aura seeped from his body. Father, you don't need to worry. Cold energy swirled around him. His eyes glowed with an ominous blue light. His lips stretched into an eerie grin. My mana awakening was completed long ago. The next day. Wow. He stood in a massive station, excited by the sight before him. Hey, are you impressed? Yes, this is my first time on a train. His mother explained to Karen, many of the technologies used to build this train were made possible through your father's sponsorship. It's true, Karen said. I knew it. His father puffed out his chest proudly and said, haha, you flatter me, my lady. His mother winked at him and said, even so, it's a truly remarkable thing. You understand, right? Karen looked up and said, of course. Father, I'm really proud of you. I mean it. His father smiled sheepishly. This man without awakened mana single-handedly supported 30% of the Reston Duchy's finances, having a mother who is always gentle and a father completely devoted to his family. They were truly the perfect parents. The forest outside the window flew by. A green train traveled through the wilderness like a steel serpent. Karen stared out the window, his expression cold. His mother read a book beside him. A massive castle appeared on the horizon. That was the main residence of the Reston family, the Azura Sea Fortress. Karen's gaze locked onto the castle. There he is, Harrow Reston. So you made me a great man in history. His father's expression froze. A flicker of unease crossed his eyes. Karen thought, I will become your opposite and make all your efforts come to nothing. He clenched his fists. Blue mana danced at his fingertips. I will become the worst piece of trash in the Reston family. A cold smile spread across his face. Just you wait, Harrow. Your precious little grandson is here. The train slowly pulled into the fortress. The gray castle waited under a cloudy sky. Metal scraped against the tracks, letting out a piercing scream. Steam hissed. A man who looked like a butler bowed and said, Third young master, it's been a while. His father stepped forward and said, It's been a year, hasn't it? Heinrich. Heinrich replied, Thanks to the Duke, I have been well. Karen's gaze went past them, landing on a line of knights behind them. He thought, Are those members of the Sea Serpent Knights? Have they already noticed that I've awakened mana? This fact, completely different from the guys in our territory. It was only a matter of time before they knew. But that doesn't matter. The butler extended his hand and said, This way, please. I will guide you to the main hall. His father replied, All right, lead the way. The scene changed. In a reception room, a maid said, The Earl asks that you wait here. The family elders will arrive shortly. If you need anything, please let us know. Karen said, Thank you. He stood alone in the center of the room. Just a reception room, but it's ridiculously large. He walked to the window and muttered, There's nothing to do here. Maybe I should have them take me to the library. A voice came from behind him. The library? Looking for the study as soon as you arrive at the main house. The rumors are true. Bookworm. Karen turned to see a blonde boy walk in and say, Since you're my uncle's child, the chances of you awakening mana are slim to none. You might as well read more books and learn how to make money like a commoner, just like your father. Karen watched him silently. The blonde boy's eyes turned cold. Blue mana gathered in his hand. How you want to fight? All right, since it's come to this, I'll give you a little taste of my mana. Karen said quietly. So they're keeping a mad dog in the main house. The blonde boy shouted, What? The blonde boy's pupils contracted. It's impossible. How could you? When did you awaken your mana? My father didn't say anything. Karen's smile widened. Of course he didn't. Even my own father doesn't know. Now, more importantly, we have a problem. Dear cousin, this house doesn't need two mad dogs. Karen's eyes flashed blue. That role is mine to play. So could you please step aside, cousin? The blond boy trembled and said, What the hell are you talking about? It's time for a beating, cousin. A large demonic shadow appeared behind Karen. Purple mana enveloped the blond boy. A voice said, Heinrich said, yes. The 3 knight captains who escorted me have already confirmed it. Raphael Reston, the second son of the Reston family, said, To think, he awakened his mana and didn't even notify the main house. What are you plotting now? Pell lowered his gaze and said, Of course not. I didn't know either. Tellus closed his eyes and said, Stop with the pointless speculation. Raphael, Tellus Reston, the eldest son of the Reston family, said, Pell didn't awaken his mana. It's only natural he wouldn't have noticed. Raphael snorted, How pathetic. A servant rushed in and said, Head butler, please come quickly. Heinrich asked, What is it? The servant said, The second young master. Raphael shot to his feet. Pell said, Brother, there must be some misunderstanding. Raphael's face twisted with rage. Karen stood up and bowed to him, saying, Hello. I am... Raphael grabbed Karen. You ill-mannered stray. What the hell was this bastard thinking? Pell shouted. Brother, Karen answered calmly. Because cousin Leon insulted my father. If it were your father, would you have stood by and done nothing? Raphael roared. This mutt is spouting nonsense. Pell tried to intervene. Brother, that's enough. Raphael shoved Pell aside. Shut up, Pell! Isn't this all because of your poor upbringing? Heinrich spoke up. Everyone please stop. The family head has ordered that he will pass judgment himself. Pell grabbed Karen and said to Raphael, Didn't you hear? Let him go immediately. Raphael's muscles tensed instantly. Pell held his son. He checked the back of Karen's neck. Karen, are you all right? Karen replied, Yes, father. I'm fine. Heinrich said, Then let's go. Pell responded, We'll come too. Karen followed his father, saying, Okay. He thought, It's been a long time. Haro. The group followed behind Heinrich. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hall. Motes of dust danced in the air, then settled into silence. In another room, Haro Reston sat at his desk, bathed in starlight. His shadow stretched long behind him. He spoke, You caused a commotion the moment you arrived at the sea fortress. The reason... Pell stepped forward and said, Father, about this matter, Haro interrupted him, his voice flat. I didn't ask you, Pell. I want to hear your son's answer. I know you're not a reckless person. Tell me all the details. Karen looked up. He thought, So you'll let me speak. Before you punish me, Karen said. It was because cousin Leon insulted father. Raphael's muscles tensed instantly. He lunged forward and said, More nonsense. Can't you just tell the truth? A loud bang. Haro's fist slammed onto the desk. He shouted, Silence, Raphael. You dare shout in my presence. In front of whom, Raphael lowered his head and said, I'm sorry, father. Haro spoke again. We can call Leon to confirm the facts. Heinrich, is Leon's treatment finished? Heinrich bowed and said, Yes, my lord. I'll bring him right away. Haro's gaze returned to Karan. I have more to ask you than just this. Karen's body tensed slightly. His pupils contracted slightly. He already knew the unasked question. Karen spoke up. If it's about my mana, I awakened it 3 years ago. Pell's breath hitched. The 3 years ago! Haro's expression became complicated. This child awakened on his own 3 years ago. Mana? He asked. Then why did you hide it from your father? Karen's voice was soft as he said, I only learned it was mana after reading about it later. Haro narrowed his eyes and asked, And then? Karen smiled and said, I just wanted to keep it a secret. It's fun to have a secret. The knights in the territory didn't know. Haro's face was filled with confusion. Is that really all there is to it? Karen let out a light laugh and said, Yes. A voice announced from outside the door, Young Master Leon has arrived. Leon walked in, a white bandage wrapped around his eyes. He said nothing. Haro said, Karen says you insulted his father. Is that true? Leon's body trembled. That? Karen said, Cousin Leon mocked my father, saying he was a pauper who only cared about money, a good-for-nothing unfit to inherit the family. Even so, I shouldn't have resorted to violence. I was wrong. Leon's voice was torn with fear. No! I didn't say those things. The temperature in the air dropped. A blue light seeped from Karen's eyes. A silent pressure gripped Leon's throat. Haro's voice sounded again. Leon! Is what Karan said true? Leon's voice was barely audible. Yes, it's true. Everyone in the room held their breath. Haro pressed his forehead and said, I see. Tomorrow's awakening ceremony will proceed as planned. The punishment for both of you is postponed until after the ceremony. Remember that. That is all for today. You are all dismissed. The castle fell into a dead silence. Haro's voice spoke up. Heinrich, what do you think? I'm talking about Pell's son. Heinrich said, I'm not sure about anything else, but I can sense that there are many things about him that would interest you, my lord. Haro said, Yes, he's interesting. Not only did he awaken on his own 3 years ago, he's kept his mana hidden until now. He also questioned the skill level of the knights in Pell's territory, as if to imply that I've alienated Pell by sending him some useless knights. Heinrich bowed slightly and said, My lord, you're overthinking it. The lord shook his head. I hope so. But that child is different. His fingers tightened. The candlelight reflected on the glass. What's so special about him? We'll find out tomorrow. After all, we can't know everything about him. Just because he's awakened his mana. Haro looked out the window. The night was as dark as ink. Will he successfully complete the awakening ceremony tomorrow? And if he does, what will he receive? I'm curious, very curious. The moonlight couldn't penetrate the forest canopy. Something was moving through the trees. It was fast, leaving only disturbed air and fallen leaves in its wake. Deep in the forest, a stone platform. Entwined patterns were carved upon it. On top of the platform, a glowing stone emitted a blue halo. The forest before dawn, a frozen black ocean. A group of people walked through the woods, their footsteps swallowed by the damp earth. Karen's gaze swept over the hooded figures, the elders of the Reston family. Although they've long since retired from the world, the power slumbering within their bodies, I can feel it. They are all highly skilled. Haro's eldest son, Tellus, his daughter, Leona. The second son, Raphael, his son, Leon. The entire core of the family is here. Just for one ceremony? This is more important than I thought. They stopped. In front of a circular stone platform, Karen's pupils dilated. Is that the Oath Stone? Haro's voice rang out. The awakening ceremony will now begin. He pointed to the stone platform. The air there began to distort. Pass through the rift opened by the Oath Stone. A world will unfold before you. They say the world shown by the Oath Stone varies from person to person. When you use the weapon you obtain there to destroy that world, the ceremony will be complete. Karen listened in silence. He looked up, meeting the family head's eyes directly. Yes, he said. Grandfather. The family head gazed at Karen, his eyes showing no emotion. Good. The emblem in his hand suddenly erupted in blue light. A beam of energy shot into the sky, tearing through the night. The beam struck the Oath Stone. The stone began to vibrate, letting out a low hum. The space in front of the platform cracked like shattering glass. A vortex formed from streams of data. Haro said, "What are you doing?" "Are you afraid?" Pell's voice trembled slightly. "Karen, are you really okay?" Karen pushed his father's hand away and said, "I'm fine. Father, I'll be back soon." Karen walked towards the glowing rift. "Use the weapon I get there." "To destroy that world?" A slight smile played on his lips. "Simple enough. Destruction has always been my job." Haro looked at Karen and said, "Overcome your fear." Karen. Karen's figure paused at the threshold. He looked back, puzzled. "Overcome my fear." Karen's silhouette vanished. The light died. The forest returned to silence. Blue data streams peeled away. Karen's body materialized. This was a burning palace. The air was thick with the smell of scorched flesh. Corpses lined the path to the throne like a forgotten feast. Karen walked past a body. "Why? Are you trying to show me memories of this place?" Karen's jaw tightened, trying to make me feel guilty with the bodies of my innocent comrades. The stairs to the throne. A voice echoed in his mind. "Your world is cruel and desolate, O child of Azure. The time has come to fulfill the contract with your ancestors." Karen's foot stepped on congealed blood. "Are you a demon?" His pupils constricted. The voice spoke again. "You. The blood in your veins cannot be tainted by a mere demon, so overcome your fear and ascend the throne. What you desire is in there." Karen passed through the door and into a world of pure crimson. He thought, it's been a long time. There seems to be something on the throne. To protect him, the Emperor even made a deal with a demon. "I didn't know my comrades and I would die because of it." A voice echoed in the air. "Child blessed by the North Sea, your soul has lost its way. You have finally come. On behalf of the Azure clan, I welcome you. That is your weapon. That is the beloved sword bestowed upon me by the Emperor. The demon sword ruin." Karen's breath hitched. The voice commanded, "Infuse your mana." Karen was shocked. "What?" "That's a demon sword that devours its wielder's soul." The voice said, "The evil will residing in the sword has been erased by your grandfather. What you see is merely a twisted form left by the demon. Awaken your sword. Child, only you can awaken it. Is it really okay to touch this sword? What if I turn back into the person who obeyed the Emperor's command and took countless lives?" Haro's voice echoed. "Overcome your fear." "Karen." Karen's pupils dilated. "I see." Haro was unusually kind today. The true purpose of the awakening ceremony wasn't to obtain a weapon, but for those who have awakened the Azure Eyes to overcome the source of their fear. If that's the case, Karen's hand gripped the hilt. Red energy exploded outwards. Everything around him was dyed purple. Then a brilliant white light. Karen's eyes became pure energy. The world around him was submerged in azure seawater. So these are the Azure Eyes, the form of ruin. The red on the sword faded, revealing a blade covered in blue markings underneath. "I do not know why this sword appeared to you in that form. This sword originally belonged to your ancestor. Your grandfather's sword is also an ancestral sword, but unlike your grandfather's, the nature of this sword's power is completely different from your family's. It's not even recorded in history." Blue electricity crawled up Karen's arm. He let out a pained sound. "What is this?" The voice said, "Endure it. The mana from the sword is being carved into your body." Karen's body began to tremble. The flow of mana within him grew more intense. A grin spread across Karen's lips. "So the sword's mana has this effect. This Azure mana is truly incredible. Isn't it? Karen asked. Then what is this sword's true name? The voice said, the sword that has slain countless demons and devoured their power. A sword whose existence even demons fear, erased even from memory. Born from the deep North Sea, a place of darkness and purity. The execution sword guillotine. That is this sword's true name. Karen murmured, the execution sword guillotine. The voice said, this sword is well suited to your destiny. Child, Karen asked, who are you? Since you call yourself part of the Azure clan, you must be the family's guardian, the Azure Dragon. The voice said, you do not yet have the ability to wield my true name. If one day you can command the seas with your power, come find me in the North Sea. Karen paused for a moment and said, all right, how do I get out? The voice said, you should already know, shouldn't you? Karen asked, is that so? Great, I've been wanting to try this. The blade sliced through the crimson air. Back in reality, a dead silence filled the forest clearing. Harrow's voice was devoid of warmth. Don't worry too much, Pell. Pell's voice was low. I'm sorry, Father. Harrow looked at him and said, watching your son walk a path no one has walked before must be painful. I know it's not easy. That's all the more reason for you to pull yourself together. Pell's lips moved. Father, he said. A sharp cracking sound tore through the night. The Oath Stone. The Oath Stone. A young man screamed. Grandfather, the Oath Stone shattered. Purple energy erupted from the stone. Gushing out like a broken dam, the ground shook violently. Debris flew everywhere. Harrow was confused. What happened? The dust settled. A boy stood where the stone platform had been. It was Karen. He held a sword. He touched his hair. Am I really back? He said. A smile spread across his face. He looked up and around. Where did the Oath Stone go? Everyone held their breath. He stood in the middle of the rubble, the remains of the Oath Stone at his feet. The Oath Stone shattered. Pell's face was twisted in fear. He thought, what have you done? You broke the Oath Stone. Karen's voice rang out, ah, Grand. Harrow's gaze passed over everyone else, fixed on the sword. That weapon? Our ancestor Reston's sword guillotine. It was supposed to exist only in oral tradition, an existence erased from the family's history. Only the family head and the elders know why. Why has it appeared now? Karen, can it be that the time of the covenant is approaching? Harrow's voice was low. Are you not afraid of that sword? Karen spoke up. Yes. The family head's pupils contracted. I see. He thought long ago our ancestors failed to fulfill their covenant with the Azure Dragon. They failed to annihilate the demons that poured forth from the end of the world. The Oath Stone, as proof of the covenant, made a promise to the future, waiting for the one who would fulfill the covenant to appear. Then, Karan, are you the one who inherits the covenant? Harrow's voice echoed through the forest. I, Harrow Reston, declare. Karen Reston, a formal member of the Azure Sea Fortress, a direct descendant chosen by guillotine. He is qualified to inherit the Linhai style, Raphael whispered. I can't believe that fool will inherit the Linhai style. Pell placed a hand on Karan's shoulder. Are you hurt? He asked. Karen shook his head. No! Father. Tellus looked at the sword. He thought I knew all the heirloom weapons in the family, but I've never heard of that sword? And just looking at it sends a chill down my spine. Pell, your son is walking a path you have never set foot on, but I will never let the line of succession be shaken by the variable that is your son. Harrow turned and said, the awakening ceremony is over. Let's go back. The group left in silence. Raphael said, brother, are you just going to stand there and watch? Tellus turned to look at Raphael and said, it seems we'll need to have a private talk soon. Raphael replied, all right. And ambitious as you. Must be feeling the threat, right? Raphael's voice was low. By the way, brother, do you know about that sword called guillotine? Tellus said, impossible. Raphael said, brother, I don't understand. Why of all people is it Pell's son? Tellus interrupted him. Now is not the time for us to be fighting amongst ourselves, he said. The next day at the station, Pell asked, are you really sure you'll be okay on your own? Karen said, yes, father. Heinrich, standing nearby, said, is there any place safer than the Azure Sea Fortress? Pell smiled and said, you're right. But, he thought, it can fend off external threats. But I'm worried about the threats from within. He placed his hand on Karen's head. He thought, of course, with father around, my two brothers won't dare to act rashly, Heinrich said. Third young master. Pell turned his head. Heinrich continued, the person responsible for instructing young Master Karen in the Linhai style is Lady Savina. Pell replied, Auntie. If it's Auntie, then I'm much more at ease. Karen thought Savina. Savina Reston, Harrow's sister. A monster whose power is on par with Harrow's. She was once known as the White Wolf. Pell said, your great aunt used to adore me. Don't be rude to her. Karen said, yes. Father, I'll do my best. Heinrich approached. One more thing, a message from the family head. Pell said, from father. Heinrich's voice was flat. He says, he will prepare a residence for you at the Azure Sea Fortress. You may visit any time. Pell was stunned. Really, father? He turned to Heinrich. Then I can leave without worry. Thank you, Heinrich. Heinrich replied, it's nothing. Pell placed his hands on Karen's shoulders and said, take care. Karen, contact me if you need help. Karen replied, yes, father. The train pulled away. Heinrich walked ahead. Lady Savina is waiting for you, he said. Let's go. Karan said, can't keep my great-grandaunt waiting. Heinrich stopped and said, pardon me, but allow me to offer you a piece of advice. Karen said, of course. Heinrich said, what Lady Savina hates most is being called grandma. It's best not to use the term great-grandaunt. Karen thought, what's wrong with being called grandma? I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the advice. They arrived at a door. Heinrich stopped in front of a building and said, this is the training hall of the Azure Sea Forest. Only direct family members may enter. Lady Savina is waiting for you inside. Please go in. Heinrich added, young Master Leon is also here. A grin spread across Karen's lips. With Cousin Leon, he said. Heinrich said, the second young master seems to be a particular favorite of Lady Savina's. Karen ran ahead and said, then I'll go in first. Heinrich watched his back. He adjusted his monocle. The lens reflected a cold light. It's about to get lively for the first time in a while. Blue mana seeped from the crack in the door. Karen thought, I can feel an immense amount of mana even from outside the door. A voice pierced through the heavy door. Why are you standing outside? Come in. Karen's body stiffened. He pushed open the door and said, Karen, Reston, son of Pell, offers his greetings. Before he could finish, his pupils contracted. What is this? A woman sat on a throne. Her voice was as young as her appearance. Are you surprised? I'm not what you expected, am I? Karen Reston, son of Pell. You're my adorable Pell's son. Time flies, Karen thought. She's reconstructed her body with mana. That means she's reached the level of an 8-star knight. Karen whispered, absurd. Impossible. What are you spacing out for? Come over here and sit cross-legged. Savina sat on the only chair, looking down at the boys. You can sit next to Leon. Karen looked to the corner. Leon sat stiffly. Karen sat down beside him. Leaning in close, he lowered his voice and said, looks like we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Please take care of me, cousin. Leon leaned back slightly and said, Savina sat on her high-backed chair, her gaze fixed on Karen. Speaking of which, I didn't expect such a young child to know the title of White Wolf. Karen replied, I like history. I read about it in a book. A slight smile played on Savina's lips. Just like my brother said, you really are an interesting child. Karen looked up and asked, Grandfather, what did he say about me? Savina's voice came from above. He said you were a child he would grow very fond of. That's what he said. Now seeing you in person, I can understand why he said that. He is a child who must sail a vast ocean. Haro continued, you must help that child, so that one day he can command that sea. Savina, you must become Karen's beacon. I've only met him once, but I can feel that this child's potential is bottomless. That potential is like a vast, boundless ocean, turbulent and wild. Right now he is just an untamed tidal wave, but he will eventually rule that sea. Savina looked at the two children sitting side by side. To meet such an interesting brat at my age, looks like I'm in for some fun. Savina stood up. All right, she said. Let's begin. She looked down at the two boys. The cross-legged posture you're in now is the most basic part of mana training. Once you get the hang of it, you won't be confined to this posture. Like this. As she spoke, deep blue mana erupted from her body. The air hummed. Leon couldn't open his eyes against the pressure of the energy. Whoa! Karen's body didn't move an inch. He thought, so this is Azure mana. Savina's voice rang out. The Linhai style, as the name implies, is a method of ruling the ocean. You use Azure mana to create and circulate an ocean within your body. The more oceans you circulate, the stronger you become. Circulating 8 oceans makes you an 8-star. Combining those 8 oceans into one is the realm of a 9-star. Savina's gaze swept over the two. There are only 3 on the entire continent, and only 1 in the Empire. Karen's pupils narrowed slightly. Grandfather, he said. Savina pointed a finger at Karen. That's right. The continent's only 9-star user. Is your grandfather my brother Haro Reston? Karen's fists clenched silently. He thought, Haro, I will definitely catch up to you in this life. Savina caught the flash of cold light in his eyes. She thought, to think this child has such a strong desire for power. An imperceptible smile touched her lips. Such an interesting child. Training him should be very interesting. Savina's voice echoed in the training hall. First, let the mana flow through the channels opened by the awakening ceremony. Remember, the power of the sea is not to be controlled, but to be embraced. Karen's consciousness sank into darkness. There were only waves, a rough ocean. Mana began to spread from his heart throughout his body. The flow of energy suddenly changed. Savina whipped her head around. Is this the amount of mana? A child who just completed the awakening ceremony should have... This isn't normal. Leon has been learning the sea art for 2 years, and he's only just begun to push for 2-star. And this one, Karen, without me even teaching him, is opening his mana channels on his own. A sharp pain as if his body was being torn apart shot through him. Karen endured it. The energy surrounding Karen suddenly subsided. Savina thought he stopped the training himself. Did his body reach its limit? He can even control his own pace. A thud sounded beside him. Leon had passed out. Savina whispered, Leon. Savina rushed to Leon's side. Her voice was stern. I told you not to push yourself. Leon's voice was weak. I'm sorry. Savina supported Leon. I was so focused on Karen, I forgot that even if they've awakened their mana, they're still just children. Karen watched with cold eyes and said, "Shh, cousin is so useless." Savina's gaze shifted to Karen. Compared to that child, he accurately grasped his own limits and stopped before his body was damaged. To maintain such composure, with such an intense desire to become stronger. Brother, it seems this child doesn't need a beacon. Savina stood up and said, Karen. Karen looked up and answered, yes. Savina looked at him and said, 3 years. For these 3 years, I will guarantee your safety. All you have to do is focus on getting strong enough to protect yourself. Karen replied, yes, Lady Savina. Shouts echoed across the training ground. Don't be so slow. Treat this like a real battle, Leon said. Karen, are you planning to train with that sword? Karen held the sword and said, is there a problem? Everyone keeps saying its aura is scary. So? I'm even using the scabbard grandfather gave me. You still don't like it, Leon replied. It's not that I don't like it. A man approached them. Welcome, Lord Karen. Lord Leon? Karen thought, so this is the guy. The man said, starting today, I will be in charge of Lord Karen's swordsmanship training. The man placed a hand on his chest. I am the captain of the Seawolf Knights, Xeris Winterguard. You can just call me, Sir Xeris. Karen smiled slightly and said, I will. I can tell just by looking at Sir Xeris that he is a master of the 8-star level. Xeris looked at Karen and said, forgive my impertinence, but I will not address you by the title of a duke's grandson. The respect of the Seawolves? Karen waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. I'm more comfortable that way. I'm not used to the title anyway. I know the rest in family tradition. You earn the respect of the Seawolves with your strength. Xeris's eyes narrowed. He thought an interesting reaction. Anyone else would have been offended by now. Xeris glanced over at Leon. Lord Leon was no exception. Leon thought, why is he looking at me? Xeris thought, a clear-headed heir has finally arrived. A smile appeared on Karen's face. After all, they will all bow to me in the end, he said. A chill ran down Xeris's spine. His body froze. No, an even bigger handful has arrived. A scoundrel even worse than Lord Leon. 3 years later at the Azure Sea Fortress, Haro held a glass of wine. Savina's voice came from behind him. As expected of my brother's wine. It really is the best, Haro said. Isn't it about time you stopped stealing my wine? Savina walked in front of him. Don't be a spoil sport. At your request, I spent 3 whole years teaching your grandnephew, Haro said. Yes, it's been 3 years. Haro looked at her and asked, so after observing him until now, what's your impression of the boy? Savina's expression turned serious. Impression? My impression is that the child is a monster, Haro scoffed. You've got some nerve, daring to call my grandson a monster, Savina said. Even the word genius is an insult to him. Haro turned to the man beside him. Xeris, do you think so too? Xeris lowered his eyes and spoke. For the past 3 years, my conclusion from observing Lord Karen is, I feel the same as Lady Savina. Whether it's physical ability, talent, attitude towards training, or courage in all aspects. And I think he is even more exceptional than the rumored genius, the first-in-line heir of the main family, Haro said. Are you referring to Tellus's eldest son, Hugo? A child with a talent that surpasses Hugo, the first in the Empire. Xeris said yes. Savina said, brother, if this child isn't handled properly, he will bring trouble to the family. Haro frowned. Savina, what are you saying now? Savina's gaze was cold. Think about the impact that child will have. On the order of succession, what does Quran mean for your sons? Haro's expression froze. Are you saying my sons will see their own nephew? As a threat, Savina continued, you can still control things now. But what if Karen's talent becomes known throughout the Empire? The order of succession will be thrown into chaos. Haro didn't answer, merely remaining silent. Savina's voice was flat. Brother, the oath stone is broken. The number of demonic beasts beyond the North Sea has surged. Our family? Haro's voice was devoid of warmth. Don't be foolish. The one who breaks the stone will erect a new one, just like our progenitor. A flicker of confusion crossed Savina's eyes. Are you referring to the prophecy passed down to the family head? Savina asked. Yes, Haro replied. The time of the covenant is near. Savina's gaze sharpened. It seems the burden on our youngest child will be a heavy one. When do you plan to tell Karen? Savina asked. A smile appeared on Haro's face. When the time is right, he said, elsewhere. Father, are you well? I have been so absorbed in training that I haven't been able to visit. The weather is getting colder. Please be sure to stay warm. I have mastered the 4th form of the Linhai style. I'm also trying my best to get along with my relatives. The letter read, I especially look after Cousin Leon. Pell read on. By the way, Father, I've run out of allowance. Could you please send some more? He couldn't help but smile. This kid. Pell turned to Heinrich beside him and said, Heinrich, I still remember how anxious I was when I left him at the Azure Sea Fortress 3 years ago. I was so anxious. I didn't expect him to adapt so well. Heinrich said. Thanks to that young heir. The Azure Sea Fortress has not been quiet lately. Pell closed his eyes and said, Is that so? I've told him many times that standing out too much is not a good thing. Heinrich stood by the window and said, Gold will always shine. Pell's voice was soft. That's true. Heinrich's expression grew serious. But from now on, things might change. Information about Lord Karen can probably no longer be contained. Pell looked up and asked, Are you saying Karan might be sent on a mission? Yes, Heinrich replied. He must complete missions for the Seawolf Knights. Pell's brow furrowed. I know. But what I'm worried about is that his two uncles will not be happy to see Karen's influence in the fortress grow. Heinrich said, I can only tell you one thing. Pell looked at him. Heinrich continued, Lady Savina is very fond of Lord Karen. Pell's expression softened. That's right. He still has his great-aunt. Karen mentioned in his letter that his great-aunt has taken good care of him these past 3 years. But Heinrich, hearing it from you puts me more at ease. Heinrich smiled. And Lord Pell, hasn't Lady Savina always been fond of you as well? Pell smiled and said, It seems the allowance I remembered to send every month wasn't wasted. Heinrich replied, Now you're joking. It seems you're relieved. Pell's smile vanished. But his great-aunt is also about to leave the fortress, isn't she? Heinrich said. I don't think you need to worry about that either. Pell was confused. Heinrich continued, Because Charon, my lord, has already formed a considerable bond with the Sea Wave Knights of the Azure Sea Fortress. Although it's a bit disrespectful, the Knights have even privately given the young heir a nickname. Pell sighed. I've heard that nickname too. The young mad dog of the Azure Sea Fortress on the training ground. The clash of wooden swords echoed in the dusk. Hans's greatsword whistled through the air as he swung. Karen met the blow. With a dull thud, the wood splintered. Hans looked down at his empty hands. His voice was dry. Lord Charon, I've lost, Karen said. Why did you turn your blade? You should have met that blow. Hans? Karen's voice was cold. Don't you know that the Sea Wave sword style is useless? When you're overpowered, you have to fight force with force, even if it breaks your bones. You're a grown man, you can't be this weak, Hans said. You're probably the only one who would criticize my strength, Lord Karen. Besides, I'm still injured. Karen said, I told you. Hans is all muscle. Hans picked up his armor. The first time anyone's ever called me all muscle, he said. Karen said, I'm also the only one who will tell you the truth. He looked at Karan and said, Anyway, fighting you without using mana now is already more than I can handle. It wasn't this hard last year. Looks like you'll be sent on a mission soon. Karen looked up and asked, Oh, did you hear something? Hans replied. Mission deployments are decided by Sir Xeris, not the family head in the capital. Karen pondered this. Hans said, Maybe to the Granaria region west of the ducal territory. Demonic beasts have been appearing frequently there lately. Karen said to Leon, who was nearby, Cousin, did you hear that? They say a mission is being deployed. Leon tightened his grip on his sword. He thought, I don't want to go on a mission with Karen. A voice said, Lord Leon, we're sparring. Please focus. Leon came to his senses. Right. He thought, but if I do well on the mission, if I can complete it well, maybe father and mother will be pleased. Pell's voice echoed in the study. Heinrich, I didn't call you here specifically because of Karen's letter. Pell pushed a small pouch across the desk. Heinrich, take a look at this. Heinrich took the pouch. Pell said, This was found by the Territory Patrol on a merchant caravan from Baron Barris's territory. It was on a carriage. Heinrich untied the string. A faint blue glow emanated from the open pouch. He gasped. This is... Pell's voice was flat. Yes, Kojin. A narcotic. I need you to investigate Baron Barris from here at the Azure Sea Forest. The territory. Heinrich's pupils contracted. He said nothing. A station in the dead of night. A train screeched to a halt at the platform. A pair of leather shoes stepped onto the ground. The man looked at the lights in the distance. So this is the Azure Sea Forest. The Azure Sea Fortress was silent in the night. A figure moved through the deserted courtyard. Karen stopped by a brazier, a bottle of wine in his hand. A faint smile appeared on his face. Touching Xeris's collection always brings a bit of a thrill. Just because this body is a child's doesn't mean I've forgotten the taste of wine. He stopped. Who's that? A face I've never seen before. A voice was heard. Is Duke Reston really not here? This is an emergency. Another person said, He has gone to the capital for an audience with His Majesty. Sir Xeris is the acting commander now. Karen stepped out of the shadows. Hey! The two men turned. Ah, young Duke. Karen asked, What brings you here so late? The man introduced, This is Baron Rohan of the Barus family. He has an urgent request regarding the fortress. Rohan's gaze locked onto Karen. He thought the young Duke, the son of the third prince, who was excluded from the succession. I heard he awakened his magic and is training at the main house. It's him. Rohan bowed slightly. A pleasure to meet you. I am Rohan Barus. Karen's expression was unreadable. Then I'll hear you out, he said. The man tried to intervene. But wouldn't it be better to leave this to the Knight Commander? Rohan's gaze fell on the wine bottle in Karen's hand. He thought, a child holding a bottle of wine. This scene doesn't make sense. Karen's voice was flat. Normally you would send a representative, but you came yourself, which means the matter is urgent. In that case, it is only proper for another noble to receive you. Isn't that right? The steward bowed his head. Understood. I will inform Sir Zeres separately. Karen nodded. Good, do that. Rohan looked at the boy before him. He thought, he's more than just a simple troublemaker. To make such a political judgment at such a young age. But that bottle of wine, that detail still bothers me. Karen turned. Then let's go. Rohan followed behind him. Has the Reston family always been like this? Allowing someone so young to drink, Karen sat in the main seat of the study. To summarize, the problem lies with the band of thieves holed up in the eastern mountains of the southern ridge. Correct, Rohan replied. Yes, that is correct. Karen toyed with the wine bottle. Since the thieves appeared, drugs began to circulate, and commoners have been kidnapped and sold as slaves. Rohan said, yes. Our Barris barony is poor and has no special products. Rohan's voice dropped. For an entire year, we haven't had a proper army, so we could hardly respond. Out of desperation, my father led the few soldiers we had to attack the thieves. As a result, we suffered heavy losses. My father was injured in that battle and has been bedridden ever since. Because of my incompetence, my father and my people are suffering. Karen slammed the wine bottle down on the table. Rohan jumped. A cold glint appeared in Karen's eyes. Those kinds of bastards deserve to be torn to pieces. He quickly regained his composure. But something doesn't add up. Even if your military is weak, it's not normal for thieves to be able to fight a regular army, Rohan replied. The intelligence is unconfirmed, but we suspect they may be deserters from the Southern Kingdom. Karen mused, deserters from the Southern Kingdom. I've heard about that war against the evil emperor. The main force of the Imperial Army suppressing them was concentrated in the south. The north had no time to worry about security. It's only natural for vulnerabilities to appear. Karen stated, indeed. The theory that deserters became thieves is the most plausible. Yes, Rohan replied. Karen picked up the wine bottle. You must be in a terrible mood. Care for something light? Rohan said nothing. Karen poured Rohan a glass of wine. The amber liquid swirled in the glass. You may not know, but the barony of Barris borders my father's territory. For both personal and practical reasons, I cannot stand idly by. Karen pushed the glass over. If I can, I would like to help personally. Rohan took the glass. Thank you for saying so. He thought, wine offered by a child. He drank it. Karen leaned forward. He lowered his voice and said, this wine was stolen from Sir Zeres' collection. Please keep it a secret for me. Rohan froze. He thought, Sir Zeres, the commander of the Sea Wave Knights. A voice came from the doorway. Didn't we agree that you wouldn't touch my wine again? The door closed behind Zeres with a dull thud. Rohan stood up immediately. My apologies, I was being rude. Zeres looked at Rohan and said, Young Baron, you need not blame yourself for this. I heard you are worried about the thieves in the barony. Yes, Rohan replied. That's why I came to the Azure City, to request the help of the Sea Wave Knights. Yes, that matter, Zeres said. Zeres walked towards Karen and said, Karen, I told you it's not good to drink at your age. Zeres took the bottle. Karan whined, my wine, Zeres said. I'm sorry you had to see such an unseemly sight, Baron. No, Rohan said. It's all right. Zeres turned to face Rohan. You've come at a good time. The Azure City will not stand by. While an old comrade is in trouble, a slight smile touched Rohan's lips. That's wonderful news. Zeres said, we will assemble a force as soon as possible and dispatch them to the Barus barony. Please don't worry too much. Rohan bowed deeply. Thank you, I am relieved. I can bring good news to my people. Karen's voice rang out. Sir Zeres, let me go. Zeres' reply was without hesitation. No, the enemy is a trained group, with unknown experts hidden among them. Rohan's pupils contracted. He thought, is this child serious about wanting to help? He's still training at the main house. He looks no older than 12 or 13. Zeres looked at Karen. I admit, he said, you raised your magic to 4-star in just 3 years, and mastered the 5th form of the Sea Wave sword style. But real combat is another matter. Karen closed his eyes. Overprotection is not good. Sir Zeres, I'd rather you send him west. A visible danger is better than an invisible one. Zeres' expression didn't change. I have no intention of letting you take the risk of facing an unknown enemy. A slight smile touched Karen's lips. What if I make you an offer you can't refuse? Zeres and Rohan flinched at the same time. On the train platform, Leon stood in armor, a confused look on his face. Why? Karen put an arm around his shoulder. Are you excited, cousin? He said. This is our first mission. Zeres stared into the distance. He thought, we've been played. He never expected that they would bring Lady Savina into this. Savina smiled as she looked at the two children. Heh, how cute. Zeres thought, no, this might be a good thing. Having a reliable guardian with them, Savina said. I was also incredibly excited for my first mission. Zeres looked at Leon. He accepted the condition. It seems Lord Leon is also pleased with the results of his training. Rohan thought the legendary White Queen Savina. To have such a powerful person with them This is going to be exciting. Rohan stood to the side, thinking, is it really okay with just 2 kids? If anything happens to Duke Harrow's grandsons, our family might be held responsible, Zaris reassured him. Don't worry, young Baron. What you're worried about won't happen. Rohan said, Sir Zaris? Zaris's gaze fell on Savina. With Lady Savina by their side, the 2 young dukes will be fine. Rohan sighed in relief. Yes, Savina's voice rang out. By the way, Zaris, unless those 2 are on the verge of death, I won't intervene. Rohan's body froze. Leon's pupils contracted. Zaris's voice was low. I know you believe in their growth, Lady Savina. But... Savina cut him off. Zaris, you know, it's not just you. Karen said, you're as bold as the rumors say. Savina's gaze swept over the crowd. I have my reasons for not being on the front lines. Zaris closed his eyes. Understood. If that is truly your wish, Lady Savina? The train's whistle blew. It's time. Leon's breathing quickened. Savina said, Leon, it's normal to be nervous, but think of it as the chance to prove your hard work of the past 3 years. A chance to be honorably recognized as a member of the Seawolf Knights. Leon's expression changed. A member of the Seawolf Knights. Yes, Karen's voice came from behind him. Do you need someone to give you a push from behind? Cousin Leon whipped around. Shut up! Inside the train car. Karen looked for a seat. Leon thought, I knew it. The time to prove myself would eventually come. But I didn't expect it to be this soon. An announcement rang out. Departing from the Azure City, the magic train bound for the Barony of Barris is about to depart. The train vibrated on the tracks. The metal let out a rhythmic roar. The Azure City receded into the distance. The train headed towards the unknown. The train sped through a snowy forest, a piercing screech. Confidential, who is questioning that word? The White Queen gazed out the window. Fox, my very existence is a secret. I cannot make public appearances. The moment I show myself, those bandits will disappear. She slowly turned her head. You wouldn't want to see that happen, would you? Fox lowered his gaze. Yes, White Queen. But are we really entrusting the mission to these 2 children? Fox's gaze swept over the white-haired boy. He doesn't seem to even know the meaning of nervousness. He's drooling unconsciously. They say this is his first mission. His gaze shifted to the short-haired boy. The other one is overly worried. He was just silent, expressionless. There wasn't a single ripple in his eyes, only a cold blue void. A voice echoed in his mind. As cold as unfeeling metal, Leon. Do you even use your brain to think? How could you associate with someone like Karen? Have you forgotten what happened 3 years ago? Leon hung his head. His mother's voice pierced him like a needle. Remember, he is your rival, not your friend. 3 years ago you were shamed because of him, tarnishing your father's honor. And yet you can still talk and laugh with him as if nothing happened. Her tone grew sharp. If you have a mouth, say something. Such a spineless man. Cold sweat trickled down Leon's temple. Mother, I'm sorry, but Karen and I are not rivals. What did you say? His mother's voice froze instantly. Leon's voice was soft. The so-called genius cousin Hugo only reached 3-star at 14, but Karen reached 4-star at 13. I'm 15 this year, and I've only barely reached 3-star. Do you understand the gap between us? He clenched his fists. Karen might be my goal, but he could never be my rival. We are 2 completely different kinds of beings. His mother's voice grew shrill. Leon! You must cast aside that inferiority complex. Leon looked up. This isn't an inferiority complex. A spark ignited in his eyes. Karen's existence is the driving force that pushes me to work harder. His mother's breath hitched. Leon, you really are. He let out a breath. You only see the trees, but you don't see the forest. Leon said no more. He just stood there in silence. A voice pulled him back to reality. Leon Reston. Leon flinched. Yes, my lady. The White Queen watched him. Is it that hard to relax? He nodded with difficulty. Yes. The White Queen crossed her arms. It is your first mission after all. It's understandable. Her gaze suddenly sharpened. But can you do what needs to be done? Leon's breath caught. The White Queen continued. Karen is the type who would sell himself out to survive. But you think too much. You don't need to doubt yourself. Her hand rested lightly on Leon's shoulder. I know better than anyone how hard you've worked these past 3 years. After all, I'm the one who trained you. The light returned to Leon's eyes. Yes, Master. Master. The White Queen seemed pleased with the title. I like the sound of that. An announcement came over the train's speakers. The train will arrive in 20 minutes. The White Queen stood up. For this mission, we will address each other as master and student. Leon immediately responded, Yes, Master. Fox watched her walk towards the door. White Queen, where are you going? There was no hesitation in her stride. If I show myself at the station, word will spread immediately. I'll go on ahead. Fox looked horrified. But White Queen, the train is still moving. The door was pulled open. A fierce wind rushed into the car. She turned her head. And young Baron, from now on call me Lady Savina. Karen looked at the open door. I see, the Master's usual boldness. My grandnephews will be nearby. You needn't worry. No one will be held responsible. He watched as she leaped into the wind. A scream mixed with the wind. Wah! The 2 boys rushed to the window. Lady Savina, Leon's voice was torn apart by the wind. Fox's face turned pale. What in the world? The train sped across the snowy plains, the rails letting out a rhythmic wail. Why is everyone in the Reston family like this? The room was dim. A suppressed cough came from the deep shadows. Baron Barris, he was slumped in his chair. I am unwell, so I can only receive the young lords of the Reston family like this. Fox stepped forward. You are too kind. My lord, how are your injuries? The Baron waved a weak hand. I am told I am out of danger. Thank you for your concern. I wonder if Duke Karan still remembers. I met you and your father 10 years ago. The Baron looked at Karen. You have grown up very well. Lord Raphael must be very proud. Karen pushed his hair back. Please call me whatever you like. I'm not used to all those formalities. Fox interjected. If you truly feel uncomfortable, may I call you young Master Karen? That would indeed make me much more comfortable, the Baron said. The Baron studied him. Since this is your first mission, you must be a 4-star of the Zahar style already. Karen nodded. Yes, but my cousin Leon is still a 3-star. Leon's eyebrow twitched. Why did you have to mention that? The Baron let out a dry laugh. Ha ha! Even so, the fact that the main family sent you shows how much they value you. The Baron's voice grew worried. That is why I hesitate to entrust such a dangerous mission to 2 promising young men. Fox spoke up. I understand your concern, Baron, but if we fail, wouldn't that tarnish the honor of the Blue Wolves? We have no intention of failing. Karen looked at Leon. Right, cousin. Karen corrected himself. Ah, yes, we will complete the mission. The Baron coughed again. Ha ha. Thank you for saying so. Fox supported him. Father, are you all right? The Baron needs to rest. We should take our leave. The Baron raised a hand. Then I will leave it to you. The guide is ready. You just have to follow him. Karen nodded. All right. The snow-capped mountains stretched on. The wind was biting cold. Leon followed behind the guide. Karan! Karen turned around. What? Tired already? Leon shook his head. It's not that. Can we really trust this so-called herbalist? Leon continued. Even if he was appointed by the Baron, who's to say he's not in league with the bandits? A small smile appeared on Karen's face. Oh, cousin, you're finally starting to use your brain. You're right. He's most likely one of the bandits. Leon was shocked. What? How do you know? A cold glint was hidden in Karen's smile. Because I spoke with him briefly when we first arrived at the station. Leon was even more confused. About what? Karen didn't answer. He just looked at the guide ahead of them. Son of Baron Rohan. How do you plan on tracking the bandits' hideout? Well, we have no choice. We'll have to use the traitor in our territory. Karen said, use a traitor. A good idea. Karen's voice came from the snow. That's about it. Leon hurried to catch up. Then why didn't you tell me? Because you've been on edge all day, cousin. Leon turned his head. I didn't expect the Baron's son to willingly associate with traitors. How cunning. Keeping the traitor by his side serves as both a pawn and a bargaining chip against us, Karen said. The fact that he hasn't been punished yet says it all. It also means they're at their wits' end. So right now we're the bait. Noble sons traveling through the barony to a neighboring region. It's a perfect trap. Leon fell into thought. Karen's lips curled upwards. It seems they're ready to close the net. A group of figures emerged from the shadows of the forest. Rohan was at the front. A bandit leader stepped forward. Good job, Sven. Since they're noble brats, I've added a little extra. Rohan took the money pouch. Thanks. A bandit pointed at Karen. Boss, those 2 young masters? Don't look like they'll go down without a fight. Leon's expression was grim, but Karen grinned. He gripped his sword. His eyes burned with a blue flame. You scum! You dare spread drugs in my father's territory? The barony of Barris. Snow covered the manor. A dry cough echoed in the air. The Baron's son walked in with a glass of water. Father, are you all right? Baron Barris covered his mouth. It's nothing. I'm fine. The Baron's son offered the glass. Drink some water. Baron Barris took it. Good. Thank you. Silence filled the room. Baron Barris lowered his eyes, lost in thought. The Baron's son looked out the window. Father, do you think those 2 young masters will be all right? Baron Barris let out a low groan. To send 2 children into our territory, without definite intelligence on the bandits, can only mean that the Azure City has absolute confidence in their abilities, especially that boy Karen. He reminds me of a young Duke Harrow, not just his looks, but that confident, calm demeanor. It's exactly the same. Baron Barris looked up. I believe we can have high expectations for those 2. The Baron's son clasped his hands. Yes, father. The scene cuts to a desolate, snowy field. Frost has frozen the land. Everything is covered in a white silence. Not a sign of life. A faint sound breaks the silence. Warm blood splatters onto a cold blade of grass. Limbs and severed parts are scattered across the snow. A massacre has just taken place here. Karen swings a blade of ice blue light, letting out a battle cry. A spray of blood explodes in the air. A body falls behind him, letting out a final gurgle. Karen's eyes glow blue, devoid of warmth. Wails and screams echo through the forest. Karen and his companion are surrounded by bandits, but they move like two phantoms reaping life. A fallen bandit reaches out a hand from a pool of blood. His vacant eyes reflect the sky. Monster! Another thud. Warm liquid splatters. A body falls. The voice of a surviving bandit trembles. Boss, they're not ordinary people. We have to retreat and inform the main force. The bandit leader grits his teeth. A beastly growl escapes his throat. He refuses to accept reality. Raising a great axe, he charges at Karen. I will not lose to a snot-nosed brat. His underlings cry out in alarm. Boss. The bandit leader shatters the ice as he charges towards Karen. Let me show you what I'm made of, kid. A crimson aura erupts from his body. The surrounding air grows hot. He lets out a roar. The axe blade glows red as it swings down. Karen simply raises his sword. He easily parries the attack. The force is completely absorbed. Absurd? Karen's blue eyes are unwavering. Noisy. A flash of ice-blue light. The great axe shatters. A line of blood appears on the bandit leader's face. The bandit leader falls to his knees. A final gurgle escapes his throat. Blood drips from the tip of Karen's sword. Leon tightens his grip on his own sword. I didn't even realize he drew his sword. Karen looks at his sword, wiping the blood on his clothes. It's dirty, his tone says, as if brushing off dust. Leon looks around. Corpses cover the snowy ground. Karen is one thing, but the aura emanating from Karen's sword, that chilling feeling made him feel suffocated. It felt more like a cold blade was being held to his throat. The surviving bandits drop their weapons. We surrender. He kneels on the ground, hands raised high. We surrender. Another voice echoes filled with fear. Karen points his sword at a kneeling bandit. Your name? The man answers incoherently, my name is Urha. A slight smile touches Karen's lips. Urha. Do you have a rope? Urha is taken aback. Ah, yes. Karen's command is unquestionable. Bring it. Urha quickly complies. Yes, sir. The rope bites into his wrists. The rough fibers dig into his skin. But it wasn't just the bandit who was tied up. Karen and Leon's hands were also tied behind their backs, escorted by the bandits. Leon whispered to Karan, Is this really necessary? Tying him up is enough. Is it really okay to let him carry our weapons? A bandit walked ahead carrying their two swords on his back. Karen's voice was cold. I told you. We're going to be bait to find their base, so we have to make it look real. If we waltz in still carrying our weapons, it would be too obvious. This way it makes sense. We've been captured. Otherwise it doesn't add up. Karen looked at Urha's back. For now, let's get more information out of him. Karan spoke up. Urha. Urha immediately turned. Yes. Karen asked, You're deserters, aren't you? Urha's face changed. Yes. We are deserters from the Kingdom of Kaith. Leon was surprised. The Kingdom of Kaith, where the war in the south is happening. Karen interrupted him. How many of you are there? Urha replied. Including one mage and his 2 guardian knights. There are 130 of us in total. Leon repeated a mage. Urha confirmed yes. Cold sweat trickled down Urha's face. 130 deserters. He realized he had captured the wrong people. He thought they were just ordinary nobles. Those glowing blue eyes, he couldn't get them out of his head. A mage. Urha's pupils contracted. They must be from the core of the Orias Empire. The Reston family, damn it. Leon was confused. If you're deserters, why did you come all the way to this remote northern region? Urha hesitated. Sir. Well, Urha whispered. Our commander promised to let us earn enough money to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. So, a glint flashed in Karen's blue eyes. A mere infantry commander, with high-ranking personnel like a mage by his side, Karen continued to think. A group of people motivated by money, choosing to be bandits in the poor barony of Barris. It doesn't make sense. Urha pointed ahead. It's just ahead, young masters. Karen looked into the distance. I'll know when I see it for myself. A guard peeked out from a watchtower. He saw the 3 people below. The guard shouted, Urha! You brought hostages back. Urha shouted back impatiently, Shut up! The guard's gaze was suspicious. Where are the others? Why are you alone? And what's that weapon on your back? Urha explained loudly. I took it from these noble brats. It's my prize. Don't touch it. The others are chasing the guards who ran away. Urha urged, Hurry up and open the gate. The guard in the watchtower pouted. You're quite sensitive. The gate slowly opened. The bandits inside were excitedly chatting, seemingly expecting praise from their leader. A bandit stepped forward. If you had brought the hostages back sooner, things would have been much easier. Urha cut him off gruffly. Shut up! Karen glanced at Urha. For a bandit, he's surprisingly soft-hearted. He felt something strange in the air. By the way, this power I'm feeling, an ominous feeling. Goosebumps rose on Leon's skin. Some kind of power was constantly seeping in. His sword was vibrating slightly in its scabbard. Leon's voice was strained. Karen, that... Karen didn't respond. A shriveled corpse was nailed to a wooden post. Its black wings were broken, and its body was covered in dried blood. It was a sacrifice. This is definitely black magic. A red glow seeped from the ground. A massive magic circle covered the entire camp. Black magic. The heavy gates closed behind them, completely cutting off their escape. Karen's voice rang out, "Urha! My sword, and cut the ropes." Urha looked bewildered. Leon also turned. "Cousin, draw Sylphid." Leon couldn't understand at all. Karen said, "You'll need it soon." Leon pressed, "What do you mean by that?" The ground began to tremble. A bony hand shot out of the dirt, followed by a second and a third. A legion of skeletons burst from the ground. Urha let out a terrified scream. Leon's pupils contracted sharply. The skeleton soldiers surrounded the bandits in the camp. They were just as bewildered. A man stepped out of the shadows. He looked at Karen and Leon. "The hostages have delivered themselves to us." What a stroke of luck. The man stood on a high platform looking down at them. "Welcome to my mountain stronghold." On the rooftops and walls, archers were already in position. The man smiled contemptuously. "My esteemed noble young masters." Karen's gaze scanned the area. No sign of the black mage. He's probably hiding somewhere chanting spells. What a persistent bunch. Karen suddenly grabbed Urha. A cold blade pressed against the bandit's throat. "If you move an inch, I'll slit his throat." Urha's body froze. "Young master." Leon's breath hitched in disbelief. "What is this? What about noble honor?" A red glow enveloped the courtyard. Skeleton soldiers surrounded the bewildered bandits. Archers on the rooftops drew their bows. The bandit commander let out a scoff. "Do nobles need hostages too? I thought you valued honor above all else." Karen's blade pressed tighter against Urha's skin. "And why not?" Urha's body stiffened with fear. "Young master." The commander's smile turned cold. "You're interesting, but you're wrong. A worthless hostage is meaningless." The commander waved his hand. "That guy is completely useless. Do as you please." Karen released his hold. He let out a light snort. Urha collapsed to the ground. "I'm sorry." Leon's voice was low. "Karen, we're completely surrounded. Do you even have a plan?" Karen turned back, a cold smile on his face. "Of course." He stood shoulder to shoulder with Leon drawing his sword. "We just need to take out that commander." In an instant, a blue light overflowed from Karen's eyes. The commander's expression froze. "Blue mana! Impossible!" Karen took a step forward. "Cousin..." "I'll take the skeletons." Leon looked at him. "What do you mean?" Before Leon could finish, an indescribable blue energy erupted from Karen's body, sweeping through the entire camp. "I'll take care of the commander." The blue shockwave swept through every corner of the camp. The archers on the rooftops lost their footing. Karen charged forward, leaving Leon behind. Leon shouted, "Karen, a skeleton!" Swung a great axe at him. Leon was surrounded by skeleton soldiers. He parried an attack. "Karen, what are you thinking? Leaving me to deal with this many skeletons alone?" The commander shrieked from above. "Fire, fire." A shower of arrows rained down. Karen weaved through them. Karen looked up. Too late. He swung his sword. Sea wave sword style, third form raging waves. A wave of blue sword energy swept outwards. A chorus of screams came from the rooftops. Karen leaped onto the high platform. The commander cursed, "Damn brat." Karen landed on the railing. A flash of his sword. He deflected an arrow. Tish! The blue blade sliced through the crimson shield. The bandit commander's pupils contracted. The commander fell to his knees, clutching his severed arm and letting out a pained roar. Karen looked down at him. "You should have been faster if you wanted to attack." The commander spat out a mouthful of blood. "You bastard!" The commander looked up. "The Azure City shouldn't have had any forces to spare." "Why?" Karen's tone was cold. "Oh, this barony is right next to my father's territory." Karen turned away. "Don't worry. I won't kill you." In the courtyard below, Leon's figure weaved through the skeletons, his sword a blur of motion. Bones shattered. He gasped for breath, sweat soaking his hair. Karen's voice came from above. "Nice work. Cousin, that's more like it. Now that's befitting of the sea wave sword style. Crush them head-on with your strength." The surviving archers drew their bows again. The commander sneered. "Do you really think you can get out of here alive?" Karen looked back at him. "What's your name?" The commander gritted his teeth. "Michael! Michael! Knox!" Karen's sword suddenly thrust out, pinning Michael's other hand to the floor. Michael let out a scream. A twisted smile appeared on Karen's face. "Order your men to disarm." Michael roared, "Drop your weapons!" An archer hesitated. Karen's smile vanished. "So disobedient." "I hate that." Karen twisted the sword's hilt. A gurgling sound came from Michael's throat. Michael knelt on the ground, unable to accept it. "To think we lost to 2 kids." He gritted his teeth. "When they get here, not even someone from the Reston family will be able to stop them." Karen looked at him. "Sounds like you're still hoping for something." "You can't possibly be counting on those black mages, can you?" Leon shattered the last skeleton, his blade piercing through the bone. He panted, looking around. A loud bang. The high wall of the camp exploded. Dust filled the air. A figure stood in the breach. "Thanks to you two, we wasted time and let the black mage get away." A blonde female swordswoman slowly walked down. From the opening, she landed on the ground, her footsteps silent. Karen and Leon went to meet her. "Master," Savina said. "Karen, Reston, Leon. Reston, you missed the most important piece of evidence. As a result, the mission is a failure. Karen let out an impatient click of his tongue and kicked Michael. Karen looked at Savina. But you like this method, don't you? Savina said, charging straight into the enemy's camp. The enemy, like your cousin, only sees what's right in front of them. Savina held up her palm. For that alone, I'll give you points. Very much in the style of the Reston family. But taking a hostage so suddenly will cost you points. Why did you take a hostage? Karen's expression didn't change. I wanted to attack where they least expected it. No one would expect a noble to take a hostage. Savina patted his shoulder. I agree with that. She let out a small laugh. Karen, I've never met anyone like you. You're a madman. Karen accepted it calmly. Thank you. Michael couldn't understand this group of lunatics. Are they really nobles? Savina turned to Leon. Return to Lord Barris's castle. I have many questions to ask. Leon answered respectfully, yes. Master. Michael's consciousness began to fade. His body was being dragged. The Reston kids are all crazy. A voice came from above. Over here. Karen looked up. A figure looked down at him. Fly over here. He called out a name. Isabel. A boy broke free from the crowd. Dad. The man held his son tightly. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you. The child sobbed in his arms. Dad, I was so scared. The man looked up. Silence. Feeling a little guilty now. The man lowered his gaze. His Adam's apple bobbed. Yeah, I guess so. Karen's voice was cold. Isn't it a bit early to be saying that being locked up in the Baron's prison with your accomplices might be a better choice? The firelight illuminated another face. A scarred prisoner was bound by ropes. You along with your boss will be taken to the Azure Sea Fortress. Savina looked at Karen. Karen, is it okay not to tie him up? Karen replied, not for now. Anyway, we need someone to carry that guy. He's too injured to walk. He clapped Urha on the shoulder guard. But don't let your guard down. Understand? Urha lowered his head. Ah, yes. The rescued man spoke up. That man, will he be punished too? Urha turned his back to the child. Yes, he's a bandit too. Forgive my impertinence. But while we were imprisoned, he sincerely took care of us. He secretly brought medicine to the sick and shared his own food with those who were starving. He bowed his head, his voice trembling. Please, I beg you, show him mercy. Savina looked at Karen. What do you think, Karen? Karen tapped his chin. Let's be lenient for now, at least. He did lead us to the hideout. Urha fell to his knees, his body trembling with emotion. Young master, I will serve you for the rest of my life. Karen looked back at Urha. Didn't I tell you not to let your guard down? A voice came from upstairs. It was Leon. Karen, you have to see this. Karen looked up. Karen went upstairs. What is it? He asked. Leon stood at the doorway. He pointed into the room. In this room, a wooden barrel was emitting an eerie blue glow. Karen leaned in for a closer look. Karen's pupils contracted. The barrel was filled with shattered crystals, shimmering with an ominous blue light. These are magic stones. A cheer erupted from the crowd as they watched the bandits being led away. The filthy bandits got what they deserved. Savina and Leon stood by Karen's side. Leon asked the Baron expectantly. They'll hold a banquet for us, right? The crowd roared with cheers, but Karen didn't react. Leon pressed, Karen, are you listening? Karen's gaze went past the crowd, landing on the barrel in the distance. So that's why such a large group of bandits was holed up in a borderland like Barus. There's a reason. The Baron's family, he didn't even know his own territory, had a magic stone mine. Although I don't know the quality of the magic stones, just having a vein can bring huge profits. A crimson light burned in Karen's eyes. Leon felt a chill. He took a step back. What are you plotting now? Savina pointed ahead. The young Baron is here to greet us. The young Baron greeted them in the firelight. Welcome, everyone. Lock the criminals in the dungeon. A guard pointed to the leader being carried. Young Baron, we need to take the bandit leader and the man carrying him. The young Baron nodded. Yes, of course. The young Baron turned to Savina. Savina, there's something I'd like to ask of you. Savina waved her hand lightly. I'm just a guardian. If you have something to say, tell my students. The young Baron turned to Karen and Leon. Then we have prepared a banquet. How about we talk while we eat? Karen interrupted him. Sorry, but we must return to the Azure Sea Fortress immediately. Let's talk now. The young Baron's expression froze. Is that so? He explained. Our territory currently lacks the ability to pay the commission, so we'd like to request an extension. A smile played on Karen's lips. Leon saw that smile. That look again? Karen's lips curled upwards. I was wondering why bandits would be holed up in Barus. The young Baron looked confused. What do you mean? Karen continued. Think about it. Barris is a remote place, with no special products. It's just a poor backwater. Cold sweat beaded on the young Baron's forehead. Stay calm. I have to stay calm. Karen took a crystal from his pocket. An eerie blue light illuminated his hand. As I thought, their target was something else. The young Baron's voice trembled. My lady! Karen held up the stone. That's right, magic stones. Did you notice? The young Baron quickly denied it. Not at all. I had no idea the territory had a magic stone mine. Karen's smile grew colder. So I'd like to make a proposal. The young Baron asked, a proposal? Karen held up one finger. Let's jointly develop the mine with the Azure Sea Fortress. He added, the conditions are, the Azure Sea Fortress will provide the initial capital and security forces. The young baron was silent. A bead of sweat trickled down his cheek. This kid, does he even understand what he's saying? Never mind mine development. Just the cost of storage facilities and maintaining security is an astronomical sum. But wait, if we can get the Reston family to invest, it will bring us enormous benefits. He probably anticipated I would think that. But who on earth gave this kid the guts to conduct such a negotiation on his own? Karen made an even more tempting offer. I'll have to report it first, but if the plan is approved, the Sea Wave Knights could be stationed here. This would solve both your economic and defense problems at once. Don't you think? The young baron's breathing quickened. Then how much of a share in the mine does the ducal family want? Karen smiled and took a step back. That's something to discuss with my father. After all, a child like me is not qualified to discuss the details of business. The young baron nodded gravely. Understood. I will discuss it with my father as well. Karen said, yes, I will contact you as soon as possible. Savina let out a small snort, a slight smile on her lips. At night under a full moon, Karen turned back and walked over to her. May I ask something? Why did you say the situation at this bandit's den would be complicated? Savina said. That's because of this guy, Leon asked. Are you talking about the black mage you defeated? Savina said. This guy wasn't just any ordinary black mage. Karen asked, confused. What do you mean? Savina explained. He is Tedraheda, a rank 2 wanted criminal in the Empire, a 4-circle black mage. Karen was taken aback. A rank 2 wanted criminal. Savina's tone was scolding. That's right, rank 2 fugitive with deserters from the Southern Kingdom is running rampant within the Empire. And you and Leon were too busy with the small fries to even notice. She continued to lecture them. You can only become stronger by fighting the strong. And if you had defeated the black mage first, you wouldn't have had to waste time on the small fries. Savina's voice was cold. That's why I must consider this mission a failure. Remember that, Karen. Karen's expression didn't change. Yes, master. Why do I feel like I'm being left out? Savina's voice rang out. And Leon? Leon flinched. Yes, master. Savina looked at him. Better than I expected. This was your first time facing the undead, wasn't it? You need to have more confidence in yourself. Leon nodded firmly. Yes, the snow blew. A massive fortress stood under the moonlight. A shout came from the gates of the Azure Sea Fortress. The Lord has returned. Duke Reston walked into the courtyard. Welcome back. My lord, the Duke asked. Anything unusual? A subordinate stepped forward to report. The Night Order sent to the west has returned. Young Master Karan and young Master Leon will also be returning soon. I understand. A figure rushed over. My lord. The Duke frowned. What's the hurry? The man handed him a scroll. A letter from the Imperial Palace. A letter from the palace? The Duke unrolled the scroll. Before I left the capital, the Emperor said nothing. His pupils contracted sharply. This is... A train sped by in the night. Duke Reston clutched the letter. The Emperor wants to personally summon Karen to the capital. The cold iron rails stretched into the darkness. A train let out a hiss as it slowly pulled into the station. Urha carried the bandit leader. He looked up at the fortress in the distance. So this is the Azure Castle. It's huge. A hoarse voice whispered in his ear. You don't really believe that kid, do you? You'll be locked up in prison soon, too. Listen if you want to live. Urha punched him in the stomach. The man let out a grunt. Urha growled, shut up. Urha glared at the man on his shoulder. You think I'd believe someone who said I was useless and should be killed? Leon looked at him confused. What's wrong with him? A voice came from behind. Curran, it's still so noisy around you. If you want a clear conscience, carry him yourself. Pell looked back at Savina. Haha, same as always. Karen turned and ran forward. Father. Savina looked at Pell. You're so pale. Looks like my brother brought you back. Pell stepped forward. It seems it's because of what this kid did in the Barus barony. What a headache. Savina said, but you look happy. Leon bowed deeply. Uncle, are you well? Pell smiled. I heard Leon also distinguished himself in the barony. If even I heard about it, my brother must have heard about it too. He'll be very pleased. Leon was flattered. Yes, of course. Pell looked at them. You must be tired. Let's go up. Savina asked Pell. Pell, the situation in the Empire seems unstable. Do you know anything? Pell hesitated. Well, Pell said, besides our family, the so-called powerful noble families are quickly uniting, led by Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz. Savina's expression hardened. Father had intended to meet with several great families in the capital to grasp the situation. But after negotiations with His Majesty failed, he seems to have canceled all his plans. Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz! They overthrew the tyrant and installed the new emperor. Now they are the ones who hold power in the empire. Savina recalled, after the tyrant's fall, my brother withdrew from the central government for the future of the empire. But now it seems the era of peace is ending. Pell replied, yes, our family must also make a move. Savina looked at Pell. Perhaps what Karan did can bring us the greatest benefit. With a reasonable Excuse, we can station troops in another's territory and expand our influence. Savina looked at Pell. Your son is truly interesting. At the perfect time. He did something so beneficial for the family. Karen smiled awkwardly. You're too kind. Auntie, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Savina's gaze turned cold. I wasn't complimenting you. Karen's smile froze. A blond man approached. Well done. He looked at Karen. I heard about your accomplishments. You crushed a band of bandits made up of deserters. His gaze fell on the man on Urha's shoulder. Is that their leader? I see. I'll interrogate him while he's still breathing. He turned to Karen. I'll squeeze every last bit of information out of him. Lord Karen? Xerxes' gaze fell on Urha. And who is the one carrying the bandit leader? Karen replied. That. Karen's voice was flat. He's a bandit too. Take him away with the others. Urha's expression froze. Young master, Karen added, but he's an informant. Process him and then release him. Karen's hand slapped Urha on the shoulder. I'm thinking of taking him as my servant. Xerxes nodded. Understood. Then go and rest. Xerxes stopped Karen. The mission isn't over yet. Xerxes pointed at them. You must submit a report, Xerxes explained, to re-evaluate the mission and improve future performance. Karen asked, Sir Xerxes, do we have to write them separately? Xerxes replied, You two can write it together. Karen slung his arm over Leon's shoulder. Great. Since I did all the hard work, I'll leave the report to you. Leon's face fell. Wouldn't it be faster if we wrote it together? Karen whispered in Leon's ear, Think about it. After the report is submitted, my uncle will see it too, right? Karen continued to whisper. That means you should highlight your accomplishments in the report. This is your chance to win your uncle's favor. Leon looked somewhat confused. Is that so? If your name appears too many times, it will have the opposite effect. Xerxes ordered a guard. Hans, take the prisoners to the cells. The guard complied. Yes, Captain. Savina stepped forward. She held a severed head in her hand. Xerxes, this is the head of the wanted criminal. Take care of it. Xerxes' pupils contracted. What? Savina turned her back. As for my report, let the children submit it in their names. The group dispersed. Karen said to Leon, Cousin, good luck. Karen walked off in the opposite direction. Leon called after him. Karen, where are you going? Karen didn't turn back. To the Ether Training Hall. I've reached 4-star. I can use it on my own now. Xerxes watched Karen's back, heading straight to the training hall after returning from his first mission. No one would believe he's just a 13-year-old child. Pell summoned everyone late at night. Because of the intelligence obtained during the demonic beast subjugation. Heinrich, a man replied, Yes, master. Pell ordered, Summon the Knight Commander. The man bowed. As you command. Xerxes entered the room. Master, I've brought what you asked for. He placed a box on the table. This is the skin stripped from a mushroom. In the western Filman Plains. Pell opened the box. An ominous black aura seeped from the box. Pell's expression was grim. It looks ordinary at first glance. But the dark energy within is extraordinary. Raphael looked at this black aura. His face instantly turned pale. The tyrant's black mana. Heinrich was shocked. Master, the tyrant died long ago. Pell's voice was cold. If the black mana is residing in a demonic beast, then there are only two possibilities. Either it's a remnant of the tyrant's will, or the tyrant is still alive. Either way, this is undoubtedly connected to the turmoil in the empire. And the matter in the Barus barony seems to have reached His Majesty's ears. The Emperor has summoned Karen to the capital. But I can't let Karan go to the palace alone. I will send Leon and the Sea Wave Knights with him. Of course, I will ask for his opinion first. If he refuses, I won't force him. Heinrich asked, Won't that be a problem? It's fine, he's still just a child. More importantly, I must find out why he made that deal with the son of Baron Barris. Pell ordered Xerxes bring Karen. A voice replied, Yes, master. Azure energy gathered in Karen's hands. Under the cold moonlight, leaves fell silently. Karen sat cross-legged, the azure energy flowing within him like cold blood. Karen didn't open his eyes. He spoke. When did you get here? Xerxes crossed his arms. Just now. Karen looked at Xerxes. I heard that besides direct relatives, only you can enter here. But I don't remember you ever coming in. Karen turned his head. Is it urgent? Xerxes' eyes were closed. Soon you may have to go to the capital. Karen's expression hardened. The capital? Xerxes looked at him. The head of the family has summoned you, Karen, to attend a family meeting. You will hear the details directly from him. The two walked down an empty corridor, their footsteps echoing. Xerxes pushed open a large door. Lord Karen has arrived. The head of the Reston family sat behind a desk. Come in. You just completed your first mission, correct? Karen bowed his head. Yes, grandfather. The family head's gaze sharpened. I've called you here because of what happened in the Barus barony. The family head's voice was cold. You are not yet qualified to represent the family in business negotiations. Why did you make an agreement with the Barus family without authorization? So it wasn't praise but a reprimand. The family head's voice was icy. Did you not consider that your arrogant behavior was disrespectful to the Barus family? Karen replied, Grandfather, I merely made a proposal to Baron Barris. He accepted it of his own free will. And I believe there is something more important than noble etiquette. The family head's expression didn't change. What is more important to a noble than etiquette? Karen's voice was quiet, but it echoed clearly in the room. That would be the family's honor. The family head leaned forward slightly. His eyes were as sharp as a knife. Considering the value of this deal, he could have boasted about his accomplishment. He didn't. He placed the family's interests above his own and stayed in the background, a brilliant strategy. The people around fell silent. The family head's voice broke the silence. Very well, the family head said. The deal you brought will ultimately bring great benefit to our family. Let Pell handle the negotiations. The son's achievement brings honor to the father. There's nothing wrong with that, Pell smiled. Yes, family head? I will depart for the barony of Barris at dawn. The family head moved on to the next topic. Next is about the letter from His Majesty the Emperor. The family head's voice was heavy. His Majesty has summoned you. News of your deeds has reached the capital. According to Xeris's report, the Emperor's letter had already arrived. Before I returned to the Azure Sea Fortress. The Emperor's intelligence network. Is that formidable? The current Emperor is just a puppet. It must be the intelligence network of the noble faction. The family head looked at Karen. Karen, if you don't want to go, you don't have to. You must have already understood the situation, and what it means to go to the capital at this time. The nobles there will surely want to confirm what kind of person Karen really is. Avoiding the capital to stay out of sight is one option. Pell looked at the family head. Father, you don't have to give Karen a choice. Since His Majesty has already summoned him, Karen spoke up. Of course I'll go. It's a good chance to see my mother, whom I haven't seen in a long time, and my maternal grandfather. Karen turned to look at Pell. But am I going alone? Cousin Leon also completed the mission with me. The family head replied, if you go, Leon will accompany you. The family head added, Hans's squad will escort you. Karen was a little surprised. Grandfather is there too. Do we really need an escort? The family head's voice was cold. Don't flatter yourself. They're not being sent because you're special. The family head's voice was stern. It's because no one knows what kind of trouble you'll get into next. Karen shivered. Yes, grandfather. The family head gave his order. Depart in 3 days. Karen bowed his head. Yes, family head. Sunlight streamed through the window. Pell said to the young baron, Your Excellency, we can conclude the negotiations. The young baron stood up. Thank you all for your efforts. Pell spoke up. Young Baron Barris, does your father also know of these conditions? The young baron smiled. Of course. My father has also agreed. Pell announced the mine shares will be rest in 60%, Barris 20%, because magic crystals are so profitable. Even a small share ensures considerable wealth. But giving 20% of the shares to Karen and Leon, this condition is puzzling. Isn't this quite unfavorable for the Barus family? Admittedly, they completed the mission exceptionally, but as a commission, this seems excessive. As a top student of the Imperial Academy, he must have a reason for making such a decision. As a commission, isn't this reward too large? Pell's expression was serious. It's to win the favor of those two young wolves, Karen and Leon. He doesn't even bother to hide it. The young baron smiled. Barris is making an investment. An investment in the two who will lead the Azure Sea Fortress in the future. Pell thought to himself, the confidence to recognize their talent. How shameless, he spoke up. Is that so? Pell laughed. Such a bold decision. Baron Barris is fortunate to have such an outstanding son. The young baron said, of course not comparable to Lord Pell of the Reston family. Then finally let's hear the children's opinion. Leon forced a stiff smile. His voice didn't sound like his own. As for us, of course we gladly accept. From now on, let's continue to build a strong relationship. The negotiation is over. It is our honor to be able to cooperate with such a great family. A cold wind blew across the platform. Leon approached Karen. I have a question. Leon asked, about the shares we received. How do we split them? Karen's lips curled upwards, as if looking at an insect. Of course it's 9 for me, 1 for you. Leon's expression froze. What? Leon grabbed Karen's collar. Hey, you're taking that much? Karen's fingers tightened. His cold knuckles gripped Leon's neck. Cousin, haven't we been getting along well lately? How could you say such a thing? Leon's eyes were filled with fear. No, of course it's 9 for you. Karen released his hand, but his voice coiled around Leon like a snake. Remember if you change your mind later? Leon nodded, trembling. Okay. Pell watched them and laughed. Ha, they always used to bicker when they were little, he continued. But now they're inseparable. Meanwhile, Karen's fingers squeezed Leon's cheek hard, as if his bones were about to break. Leon's voice was muffled. Okay, I'm sorry. A relieved smile appeared on Pell's face. I can't believe we're going to the capital. I've only heard rumors. I don't know anything. Karen, what should I do? Karen's voice came from behind him. Don't make a fuss. Cousin, we're about to meet His Majesty. Isn't it normal to be a little nervous? Karen sat on the bed. Leon's eyes sparkled. We can go to social parties too, right? I hear the capital is full of beautiful women. Karen's tone was dismissive. You're not a child. Savina appeared at the window out of nowhere. Tokus is a very interesting place. Lots of people and many powerful ones, too. Leon was startled. Master, what are you doing up there? Savina landed lightly. This will be a good experience. She looked around. No wine glasses. I came to celebrate your first mission. Leon pointed out, looking for wine glasses in a 13-year-old's room? There are only water glasses. Savina casually picked up a water glass. As long as it can hold wine, any cup will do. Karen picked up a water glass, a look of disgust on his face. Stealing wine is one thing, but have you ever drunk before? Leon replied. Karen gave me some a few times. Savina's lips curled upwards. So he made you his accomplice. Karen said, it's better to get scolded together. Savina filled a glass for Leon. Here, since it's your master pouring. You don't have to hesitate. Leon took it trembling. Yes, Savina said, you've both grown up. Leon said gratefully, thanks to you, master. Savina picked up a bottle of wine. It's been 3 years. Since I promised your brother, I'm a little disappointed. I won't be able to see you two stir up trouble in the capital. Leon's expression froze. Master, I heard you're returning to the North Sea soon. Leon frowned. Does that mean we won't see each other again? Savina teased, so sentimental. How are you going to flirt with the women in the capital like this? Leon blushed. Savina advised, if you go to parties, it's best not to go with Karen. Leon was confused. What do you mean? Savina explained, think about his looks, talent and eloquence. What do you think will happen? Leon imagined a scene of Karen surrounded by admirers, with the moon and the stars. While he stood alone in the corner, Leon grabbed Karen's collar. Karan, Leon wailed, don't ruin my marriage prospects. Karen said coldly, you idiot. You're getting way ahead of yourself. Enough, let's drink. Leon shouted, yeah. Cousin, stop talking nonsense and drink up. The candlelight flickered. Pell was drinking alone. A knock on the door. It's Lord Pell. Come in. Pell stood up. You called for me, father. Yes. The family head nodded. I heard your negotiations with Barris went smoothly. The family head continued. Giving their shares to Karan and Leon, it seems the young Baron's opinion prevailed. Pell said he called it an investment in the future. The family head said Baron Barris has a clever son. The family head concluded, in any case, the outcome is good. Having a reliable ally is not a bad thing. From now on, matters concerning Barris are in your hands. Pell nodded. I will not disappoint you. The family head handed Pell a glass of wine. Here, thank you, father. Father doesn't praise easily. There must be another reason he called me. It's likely about Karan going to the capital. The family head spoke up. Pell, you know His Majesty has never directly summoned anyone other than myself. In that sense, Karen's summons is highly unusual. Pell thought, I knew it was about Karen. The family head recalled, in that private meeting, I once again saw the look of fear in His Majesty's eyes for me. It stems from his fear that I will overthrow him, just as I overthrew the tyrant. So I believe other forces are at play. Pell asked, you believe it's political? The family head nodded. Yes. Pell said, considering the political situation, with the noble families assembling in the capital, you could have refused His Majesty's request, but you didn't. The family head tapped his fingers on the desk. Correct. Pell asked, may I ask why? The family head smiled. Why? I want to know Karan's medal. Pell was confused. The family head explained, he was chosen by the ancestral sword guillotine, whether he likes it or not. He is destined to stand at the center of our family. Not only that, as a member of the Reston family, he will inevitably face checks from external forces. He will continue to face countless threats. That's why I didn't refuse His Majesty's request. If he is to bear the future of our family, he must endure all of this. The family head looked at Pell. Are you worried? Pell's body tensed. Pell took a drink. Father, I believe in my son. Pell covered his mouth, his eyes moist. The family head looked at him. The family head was silent for a moment. He smiled. Believe in your son. A straightforward answer. The morning sun shone down. Savina was on horseback. Zeres asked, aren't you going to say goodbye to the young masters separately? Savina shook her head. No. Savina said, we had a lot of fun drinking with them last night. Zeres thought, they drank all my wine, and they're leaving for the capital today. It's better to leave quietly. Savina glanced back once. I look forward to the day we meet again. Zeres said, until then I will be the white wolf who guards the wine. Savina looked up and saw Karen in the window. Karen waved at her. Savina smiled. Savina shouted, farewell. She rode off. So I returned to the North Sea. This place is like home. You can come back anytime. I'll always be waiting with good wine. Karen held the letter and let out a small sigh. She left for the North Sea with just a single letter. His gaze sharpened. Now that Master is gone, my uncles will start to make their move, won't they? A voice came from behind him. Karen, Tellus had appeared at some point. He said in a low voice, your great aunt has also left. Karen turned sharply. His pupils contracted. Karen bowed his head. Uncle, under the station clock tower. A voice rang out. Is all of the young master's luggage loaded? Yes, head butler. You didn't forget the young master's tailcoats and formal wear, did you? Yes, it's all packed. Karen grumbled again. Sir Zeres, is all this fuss really necessary? Zeres turned. Of course. The young masters will be representing the family in their audience with His Majesty, Karen pouted. If you say so. Karen saw a group of knights. Bruns's squad. Why are they coming too? The knight captain replied with a deadpan expression. To protect the young masters, Hans muttered under his breath. More like to keep the young masters from causing trouble. Karen shot him a cold glance, glared at him. Quiet, Hans. Karen's face darkened. Leon, there are so many nuisances. Leon looked at him confused. Early morning. Karen bowed to Tellus. Good morning, Uncle. Tellus didn't turn around. Good morning. With his back to Karen, he said, You're leaving for the capital. Yes, His Majesty has invited us. Tellus's voice suddenly turned stern. Karen, may I ask something of you? Karen bowed his head and replied, Yes, Uncle. I hope that in the capital, you will not act as you did in the Azure Sea Fortress. You know what I mean. I won't say more, Karen complied. Yes, it seems he's been watching me. Tellus's voice was icy. There are many enemies in the capital. They want to tear our family apart. If you give them any excuse, I will punish you severely with my own hands. Karen's body tensed. A smile spread across Karen's face. A perfect, flawless smile. Thank you for your words of wisdom, Uncle. I will never disappoint your expectations. Tellus seemed satisfied. Good, come back safely. He turned to leave. Karen bowed his head. Yes, Uncle. Tellus turned and left. Karen watched his back silently. A cold smile played on Karen's lips. Punish me severely, you say? An ominous blue light glinted in his eyes. You think you can suppress me with your status as the first prince? I'll make that arrogant face of yours. Twist in pain. Just you wait. Tell us. The train hissed with steam. Ready for departure? Karen pointed at Hans. Hans, if you cause any trouble, I won't be lenient. Hans looked reluctant. That's exactly what I was going to say. A bald man approached. He spoke hesitantly. Young master. Karen turned around. The bald man bowed deeply. Thank you again for this opportunity. Karen said, Oh, that. Karen suddenly grinned. Actually, I'm taking you to the capital, to throw you in prison. Hans and Leon were shocked. What? I told you not to let your guard down. Karen looked at the bald man, a cold smile on his face. The prisons in the capital are quite harsh. The bald man pleaded, Young master, please don't abandon me. Karen looked at the bald man. We'll see how you do. Hans said, Commander, we should depart. He said to the guards, All right. Zeres looked at Leon and Hans. Please, you two don't cause any trouble in the capital. Come back safely. Karen sighed. Anyone who saw us would think we were delinquents. He clicked his tongue. Then let's depart. Pell suddenly called out to him. Karen! Pell came running out of breath. Karen, wait! Karen turned around. Pell bent over, hands on his knees. Beads of sweat trickled down his forehead. Karen asked, Father, what are you doing in the Azure City? His father panted, sweat soaking his sideburns. Your grandfather called me here. Not only that, I wanted to see you one last time before you left. And your maternal grandfather is looking forward to your arrival in the capital. Karen's eyes lit up. I can't wait to see him. He must have prepared a lot of gifts for me. His father smiled at him. His father's hand rested on the blond boy's shoulder. My son, he gazed at him. Please come back safely. It wasn't a request, but more like a warning. His father turned to the crowd. Try not to cause too much trouble. A hollow laugh erupted from the crowd. Elsewhere, Tellus and his bookkeeper. He gazed out the window. They're gone. A subordinate came to report. We've received intelligence that the second prince's wife is plotting in the capital. Tellus's face was expressionless. We don't need to get involved. The train sped towards a massive white city. Inside the train car, Karen's fingers tapped against the window frame. When on earth are we going to arrive? He asked Hans. How much longer until we reach the capital? His guard Hans replied, about 6 hours. We'll be passing through the Tebe Autonomous Region. Karen frowned. The Tebe Autonomous Region, Leon explained, the city where the mayor is directly elected by the commoners. Hans added, yes. Their agriculture, commerce and industry are more developed, Karen said. The place where the Empire's funds circulate most densely. Hans continued, that's right. Their money is class. Hans continued. They use their vast capital to exert influence, which is why they are often kept in check by other lords. Karen nodded. Yes, I remember some serfs would flee from tyrannical lords and seek refuge there. Hans added, they are very friendly towards our Azure City. Sometimes they even give large-scale commissions. To our Knight Order, Leon asked, really? The train is about to enter the Tebe territory. Karen looked out the window. If I get the chance, I'd like to check it out. Karen got excited. Maybe I can slip out after the official schedule. Leon said, I want to go too. Karen's expression froze. He sensed something was wrong. His sword guillotine. The blade glinted with an eerie blue electric light. What is it reacting to? On a moving train? Guillotine's reaction means it has sensed danger. A few faces flashed through Karen's mind. Could it be Tellus? Did Raphael plant someone in our entourage? He immediately dismissed the thought. They're not foolish enough to take such a risk. Hans asked Lord Karen, Karen turned and ordered Hans. Hans, contact the Tebe Autonomous Region immediately. Hans was taken aback. Huh, why so suddenly? Karen drew guillotine. There's no time to explain. Inform the other knights to prepare for battle. Hans's pupils contracted. Hans immediately understood. I understand. Karen shouted towards the connecting car. All accompanying personnel prepare for battle. A chorus of replies. Understood. Karen's eyes were cold. Yes. If the threat is external, how would they attack? A moving train? A red fuse snaked across the wasteland, slithering through the sand. A hooded figure stood motionless beside the tracks, waiting for the iron beast. In the distance, another figure raised a torch. The firelight illuminated a masked silhouette. It's begun. More than one figure. They fastened barrels to the tracks, connecting them with the red fuse. The train was getting closer. They're here. The final spike was hammered into the railroad tie. The fuse is set. The torch touched the fuse. Sparks hissed. Inside the train car, Karen roared. Everyone brace for impact. The sparks crawled along the fuse towards the barrels like a burning snake. The silence was shattered. A pillar of orange light shot into the sky. The ground trembled. A flock of birds in the forest took flight, scattering in a panic, fleeing from the land of death.